We welcome all our viewers to today's edition of Money Moves. I am Melissa Enoch here at the FMDQ studios in Lagos.
And I am Grace Agbarago. It's Tuesday, the 20th of January. This is your Money Moves.
All right, let's tee up with your news now. At the 2026 World Economic Forum in Davos, focus is on the energy security as global leaders examine the different paths countries are taking from scaling up clean energy and reviving nuclear power to upgrading grids and leveraging traditional hydrocarbons. Let's now turn our attention to Fatia Barrow, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency.
Energy demand is growing, definitely, but we have to be a bit careful. While oil and gas will be with us years to come, what grows the most, very impressive, is the electricity demand. As IES says, we are entering the age of electricity. Electricity demand grows almost 3 times higher than the total energy demand. In addition to the usual drivers of electricity demand, there are 3 additional new drivers. One is that you mentioned, Robin, the AI, data centers. One data center, medium size, consumes electricity as much as a town with 100,000 households, and you need 24/7 electricity. There is no AI without electricity. This is number one. Number two, air conditioners. This is a big driver of global electricity consumption around the world. And the third one, the additional one, is the electric cars. Okay, today 1/4 of all the cars sold in the world are electric. So they push the electricity demand growth, and it will be met by mainly 3 things: renewables, natural gas, and nuclear power.
Meanwhile, effective February 8th, all data and airtime purchases in Ethiopia will be subject to a 5% levy to fund the National Disaster Response Fund. The mandatory contribution applicable to Ethio Telecom and Safaricom is part of a homegrown resilience strategy to ensure predictable domestic funding for emergency preparedness and reduce reliance on foreign aid. The move follows recent disruptions in international assistance, including temporary suspension of U.S. aid disbursements in January 2025. In other news, Egypt and the African Development Bank have signed a $170 million agreement for the second phase of the private sector development and economic diversification support program. The funding will support the state project and promote structural reforms. The deal includes an additional $400,000 grant to boost environmental sustainability at the Abu Rawash wastewater treatment plant. In Davos, day 2 of the 2026 World Economic Forum is underway, with discussions turning to key economic and development challenges. For Africa, attention is on a growing youth population and rapid urbanization amid rising demand for jobs and declining traditional aid. Here are excerpts.
Horticulture and the coffee, agro-processing, livestock, oilseeds, and the cereals continue to absorb millions on farms, in aggregation, in transport, cold chains, and the basic processing. Productivity is, however, uneven, but the employment footprint is large, and there is potential to expand into on and off farm jobs. Second, SME, light manufacturing and industrial parks. Textiles, garments, leather, and agro-processing have shown that Ethiopia can create large number of entry-level wage jobs, especially for young women, when production inputs are reliable. As an example, industrial parks in Ethiopia mobilized private investment and created over 90,000 jobs in 2022, with approximately 87% of these jobs held by women. Third, services linked to urbanization and connectivity. Construction, logistics, retail, healthcare, hospitality, and transport are among the fastest labor absorbers today. Within this ecosystem, aviation plays a catalytic role. Ethiopia's aviation industry is not only a major direct employer, It also enables entire services and production systems.
In Zambia, ZCCM Investment Holdings and the Ministry of Finance have incorporated Zambia National Energy Corporation, ZNEC, to drive energy investments in the country. ZNEC will implement the Presidential Constituent Energy Initiative, PCEI, working with government agencies, financial institutions, independent power producers, and the private sector to attract capital, mitigate risks, and ensure efficient project delivery. Meanwhile, the Ethiopian Council of Ministers has approved a major wave of economic reforms during its 52nd regular session today. The decisions include modernizing the customs proclamation for better global trade, launching performance-based investment incentives to boost high-priority sectors, and a new national entrepreneurship policy to spark innovation across the country. These landmark steps aim to streamline manufacturing and foster a more competitive, stable economy for Ethiopia. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, a key session examined why the era of incremental change in banking is coming to an end, with banks urged to shift from reacting to digitalization to proactively adopting it, while adopting rather than constrained by regulation. Here are excerpts.
We think of digitizing our business, we think about it in a couple of dimensions. One, we compete on trust, we compete on scale, we compete on service and value. And when we think about value, a big part of our digitization has been moving up the value chain. So when you think about discovery, searching for a home, starting a business, digitizing that approach, if banks just remain the last mile of payments, at the end of the day, I think that's where we risk disruption. So part of our digitization is to digitize the physical services that we've been delivering for hundreds of years, but also to expand our value chain and our competition up into discovery in the value chain. That way we can curate a journey for the customer through a mortgage process and searching for a home, finding a home, financing a home, living in a home and shelter. Same thing starting a business, same thing in the payment side as we have an e-commerce capability as well as we help clients search for goods and pay for goods. So part of our digitization is expanding our value chain, not just digitizing who we are today. I think we've been very successful in doing that. We acquire customers through those expanded value chains. But it's just as important that our system in the physical world and into the digital world has a lot of friction. And we have to eliminate that friction by rethinking the processes. And I think digitization starts to embed AI. And first it was reinforcement learning and machine learning. And now when you get to generative AI capabilities, it allows us to more exponentially rethink those value chains and lever that. So we're in this, I think, third wave of digitization using generative AI and agentic AI to do that. And that's a whole conversation. So I think it's both of those, Sarah. It's rethinking the world, but also rethinking our basic service levels at the same time. We think of digitization.
Finally, on news now, Transnet November auction of government-guaranteed debt attracted 42 billion rand in bids, more than 8 times the amount offered, according to Future Growth. The company raised 5 billion rand across 5, 8, and 10-year floating rate notes, as well as a 10-year fixed rate note, signaling renewed investor confidence. Future Growth said the strong demand reflects tight supply, aggressive bank bidding, and improving credit fundamentals, though it warned that Transnet's reform agenda could face risks as private operators enter the rail network. I am Melissa Enoch, and that's it on News Now this Tuesday. The show returns shortly with Grace, giving us our market rounds at the FMDQ Archives Room. Stay
pace at which Ethiopians have adapted to digitization, digital transformation is astounding. I mean, to add the statistics you've listed out, we have 18.5 trillion digital transaction now, right? Big. That is over 50 billion per day, right? And probably 2.1 billion per hour. So, the previous funnel probably took an hour. That means 2.1 billion was being transacted digitally. So imagine if we're doing this in cash. So yeah, that is what is a biggest success. But the whole idea of moving government into digital transaction, digital service is a big leap forward. Most services are now digital. At the Ministry of Finance, for instance, 98% of transactions are done digitally. Imagine this is the biggest spender in the economy.
Welcome back to Money Moves. Let's now go over to Grace for today's market review. Hello there again, Grace.
Hi, Melissa. Let's now take a look at how the markets traded today. Starting off with the equities. The Nigerian Stock Exchange gained by 0.09%, while the BRVM slipped 0.38% to 351.85. The Nairobi Securities Exchange advanced 0.12% to 193.84. In South Africa, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange added 0.24%, and in North Africa, Egypt's EGX30 jumped 1.90%, while Morocco's MASI declined 0.45%. Let's do a quick round on some of the Pan-African currencies. The rand weakened 0.38% to 16.44 against the US dollar. The Egyptian pound strengthened 0.16% to 47.49, while the CFA franc slipped 0.92%. The Kenyan shilling edged up 0.02%. The Moroccan dirham fell 0.23%, while the naira gained 0.08% to 1,418 naira 91 kobo. Let's switch into the commodities data deck, beginning with energy prices. Brent crude climbed 0.81% to $64.46, while US WTI gained 0.89% to $59.97. Natural gas surged sharply, jumping to 24.69% to $3.86, and RBOB gasoline rose 0.99% to $1.80 as at 13:28 GMT. Now, finally, two soft prices. Cocoa slumped 8.02% to $4,669, while coffee fell 1.21% to $351. Cotton edged up 0.29%, palm oil gained 0.86%, and sugar was flat at $14.96 as at 13:31 GMT. And that's our Money Moves markets today. Back to you, Melissa.
Grace, thank you very much for those market updates. And that's it on today's edition of Money Moves. From me and the rest of the team here at the FMDQ studios, we say thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.